Born November 18, 1927, John Henry Kendricks, better known to the world as Hank Ballard, was a rhythm and blues singer, the lead vocalist of the Midnighters, and one of the first rock and roll artists to emerge from the early 1950s. Hank Ballard was born in Detroit, Michigan, but at the age of 6, he would move to Bessemer, Alabama, to be raised by his relatives due to abandonment from his mother, and a year later, the death of his father. His new family life was a strict Baptist household where he sang in the gospel choir at his church, and this is where he started a long love affair with vocal music. At 15, he could no longer take the restrictions of his life in Alabama, so he ran away from his relatives and went back to Detroit, where he found a job working on the assembly line for the Ford Motor Company. One of his cousins, Florence Ballard, was also in Detroit at the time. Florence Ballard later worked for Motown as a member of the Supremes. In 1951, Ballard formed a doo-wop group where he was discovered by the legendary bandleader Johnny Otis and was signed to sing with a group called the Royals. The original lineup is said to have included Levi Stubbs, later from the Four Tops, and Jackie Wilson. The Royals' initial style was smooth, owing much to Sonny Till and the Orioles. However, it changed radically when Hank Ballard, who'd grown up singing in church and further being inspired by the Dominoes' Clyde McPhatter, gave the group a hard gospel edge and a suitcase full of rhythm-charged, frequently raunchy songs, beginning with 1953's Get It, an R&B song with sexually oriented lyrics, which many radio stations refused to play.
Oh baby, get it, get it, get it, get it, get it. You know I wanna see you with it, with it, with it, with it, with it, because I'm yours, darling baby, yours now and always.
The group then changed its name to the Midnighters to avoid confusion with the Five Royales. In 1954, Ballard wrote a song called Work With Me, Annie. The FCC opposed it due to its overtly sexual lyrics. Lyrics that had crossed over and were now being listened to by white teenage audiences. But because the record was in such demand and received so much publicity, attempts to restrict it failed, and the record shot to #1 on the R&B charts and remained there for 7 weeks. This was the first of the Annie records and sold 1 million copies. So did the answer songs, such as Annie Had a Baby and Annie's Aunt Fanny. All of these records were banned for radio play by the FCC. The success of these recordings spurred the practice of recording double in tenure records and answer songs. Another answer, The Wallflower by Etta James, popularly known as Roll With Me Henry, was also re-recorded and reworded by Georgia Gibbs as Dance With Me Henry for top 40 consumption.
You gotta dance with me, Henry.
All right, baby.
Dance with me, Henry.
Don't be baby.
Rock with me, Henry.
Any old time.
Roll with me, Henry.
Change my mind.
Roll with me, Henry.
All right.
You better roll while I'm running from. Roll on, roll on, roll on. While the dance all falling.
Both songs had the same melody as Work With Me, Annie. The melody was recycled again by the Midnighters for a song called Henry's Got Flat Feet.
Henry got flat feet, can't dance no more. Henry got flat feet, can't dance no more.
Their next major hit was Sexy Ways,
Sexy ways.
a song that further cemented the band's reputation as one of the most risque groups of the time. The band is an illustration of why white radio stations tended to avoid playing songs by black R&B performers. The Midnighters continued releasing singles and albums. However, they had no hits in 1956 through 1958. Then, between 1959 and 1961, they had several more, both on the R&B and pop charts, including Let's Go, Let's Go, Let's Go, and the Grammy-nominated Finger Poppin' Time. In 1959, Ballard's song The Twist was released as the B-side of Teardrops on Your Letter.
Come on, baby. Let's
A year later, Chubby Checker's cover version of the song went to #1 in 1960 on the pop charts. It would return to the top of the charts again at #1 in 1962, the only song in the rock and roll era to do so. Though this brought about a renewed interest in Ballard and the Midnighters for a time, this lasted for only a few years, and the group dissolved in 1965. Ballard would later launch a solo career, working with James Brown.
Ladies and gentlemen, Hank Ballard!
Only you make me do what's right. Only you never get a fight. Only you take me by my hand. Only you claim that I'm your man, that I love you. I love you.
After a long hiatus from performing, Hank Ballard reformed the Midnighters and toured from the mid-1980s till 2002. And on March 2nd, 2003, Hank Ballard died of throat cancer in his Los Angeles home. He was 75. Hank Ballard once said, "If you're looking for youth or you're looking for longevity, just take a dose of rock and roll. It keeps you going, just like the caffeine in your coffee. Rock and roll is good for the soul, for the well-being, for the psyche, for your everything. I love it. I can't even picture being without rock and roll." So, who has Hank Ballard's crown? Someone should give it back and place it on the head of this true king of rock and roll.
Yeah,